Now, I wasn't rebuilding the catalog system or anything like that, but it maintained a lot of moving parts. So I actually charged them $600 for that website. $600 for a public library website. So anyway, so while I did that, I ventured upon the user group of New York City, the Joomla user group, which started at about that time. And I started attending the meetings once a month. And at first I was a little nervous because I said, well, I'm not really a programmer. I don't really get this stuff. And Mitch, who they mentioned earlier, was one of the founders of our group. And he's like this crazy PHP techie. And I'm like, I'm not you. I'm really not. I just kind of build little websites. He's like, but Laura, you're building a website for a public library. You know, you already did a nursery school and a synagogue, so you're there. You know. So anyway, with the help of the user group, I kind of started spreading my wings a little bit. And now, several years later, it's primarily what I do, is I build websites for companies. My niche happens to be public libraries. I love building sites for public libraries. Not just because that's where I got my start, but what I found is as a client, they are responsive, they know their content, they love their content, they respect data, which if you're working with a client that is building a Joomla website that does not respect data or the information they're putting in there, they think you're just going to do it all for them. That's a problem for me. You know, I am not an expert in manufacturing. I can build your website, I can guide you in what you should be thinking about, but I can't write the content. So with the library, they love their content, so I happen to really like those ones. Anyway, so throughout the years, I've done a lot with the user group in New York City. I've ran a couple of Joomla days in New York, 2009, 2011. This past one in 2011, we had 170 people, I think, and it was ended up being a 3-day event. We had people from all over the world, which was amazing. If anyone's used the tool J Events, Duran Edwards came in, which I was so excited about because a lot of my libraries use J Events. So I actually, my librarians, I had like 6 of them, sat with Duran Edwards to talk to him about his tool J Events, which they use on their website. Now, only in the Joomla world you can do that, and to me that was really empowering and exciting to say, clients, this is the guy that built your thing. You guys sit and talk, and they did, so it was really great. This year they're going to, and I also do Joomla Camps, which is a very small event. We usually have about maybe 40, 45 people. We just had it a couple weeks ago, and that's more like workshop driven. So we have 3 different mentors, and they sit with a group of 10 to 15 people around a table. Everyone has their computer open, and someone will say, like I ran a workshop on galleries. So they said, well, what about this gallery? I said, okay, let's try it. And we literally just played. And then we would switch to a different topic. So it's called Joomla Camp. You could find out all the information about the New York events if you go to joomlanyc.org. And wherever you live, if you're around here in New York, wherever you live, if there isn't a local user group, start one. Because the way the community can remain strong and grow is by having these groups. The small groups, they're not for profit. It's not about money. It's about just all of us learning from each other. And all of us in the user group, we use each other for different things. You know, I have certain strengths. Other people have different strengths. And we all work together. And it's great. And it's great. It's really enabled me to have a really amazing career myself. So I'm very excited about it. My other kind of hat is as a Joomla trainer. I work for OS Training or joomlatraining.com for Steve, and I'm the primary instructor for New York. So about every 10 weeks, I teach a full day class of like an intro to Joomla class, and then an intermediate class. Usually we do an intermediate class as well, which kind of takes us to the next step on that second day. And I think I'm teaching again in June, 4th and 5th, or something around there. So if you go to joomlatraining.com, you can find out more about that. And then lastly, I just kind of ventured into this with Video to Brain, and I have some coupons up here if you're interested. Video to Brain is a video training company similar to lynda.com. Video to Brain was based in Austria. They have now started creating English-based classes. They're, my project manager, she's in California. There's people all over the place. And we just published Getting Started with Joomla, and that was published at the end of February, beginning of March. So there's a discount for that. And they have an interesting purchase program, a little different than Lynda. You can just pay for it for $40 and then you get a discount. Or you can do a subscription, which is really inexpensive. I don't know if it's like $15 a month, and you can access all of their titles for that entire month as many times as you want. So it's definitely affordable if you're looking for specific things. And were there any other online training? Other online training options are with ostraining.com. You can join their services. I don't remember the cost, but what's nice about ostraining.com is he has very specific lessons about different topics. So let's say you want to, I know I can put a module inside of an article. How do I do that? Okay, well, you can look it up and you can find it. And I also encourage you, go to Joomla.org. Joomla.org, go onto the forums. That's how I've learned most of the stuff I've done. I'll just type the question. I don't know how to do this. And you'll find a video or a training or a PDF or something that will walk you through how to do it. So it doesn't necessarily have to cost you a significant amount of money just to get started with Joomla. Good morning, welcome. Have a seat. So I'm trying to think if there's any other training opportunities. The user groups, Joomla days, you're here, so you already get that. And just keep working. Get your hands dirty. Break it. I'm telling you, the more things you break, the more things you'll learn. And it's always easier to do it the second time around. So like when I break something, which I do often, I delete tables or I accidentally delete all my articles from my husband's website or something retarded like that, and I just do it. It's easier to do it when I have to do it again, you know? And I know your clients may not be happy to hear that, but it's true. It's true. And you know, that's how you learn, and that's how the sites get better. And my sites have gotten better over the years because now I know the right questions to ask, the right direction to point my clients in. Welcome. Good morning. Okay, so today, this is a very big topic to cover in 1 hour because everyone in here probably has a different background. So I kind of chose the basic stuff of basically saying, you know, these are the different pieces. Let's go over what they are. If you have questions, just raise your hand, interrupt me in the middle, and that's fine, and I can go in a different direction, but just keep in mind if I go in a different direction, that means I may not be able to finish everything, obviously. You know, I'll do the best I can, but I do want to keep on time. So what is Joomla? Can anyone in here explain to me what Joomla is? Ready to? A content management system. So what is the reason to use, let's say, a content management system instead of a straight HTML Flash website? And
it's easy to change things on the website. You don't have to go through an entire website and change everything with a content management system as opposed to HTML.
Absolutely, because in the content management system, the content is separate from your actual applications. So what this means is not only can you change it easier, actually it's a little misleading because if I was running the website, sometimes it's easier for me, it's a pizza place, to just keep it in HTML because I can update it just as fast whether I'm using Joomla or HTML. And I've always said that. I said, you know, for me it's easy. But your manager of the pizza restaurant can't do the HTML changes and then push the changes or, you know, push them up to a server. But they can log into the front end of a Joomla website and edit it if need be. So, bless you. Anyone else need more on what Joomla is overall? I'm assuming if you're here, you probably know a little bit better. Okay, the versions. Anyone here with Joomla 1.0? That's good. Okay, so that started in 2005, safe and secure, not supported. There's no more tools on it. I still have one client on 1.0. I cannot move her. And I've been trying. I'm like, please, Doreen, please. No, it's fine. Everything's fine. And then the other day, she asked me to like make a change to a form. I'm like, I can't make any more changes. There's nothing, like we've hit a wall, darling. We can't. And so she's going to let me move her to 2.5, finally. So I'm very excited about that. What about 1.5? Does anyone have a Joomla 1.5 site? Okay. So Joomla 1.5 was released in 2008. It's safe, it's secure, it's running fine. It's going to be supported until April 2012. Today is April. Now, the rumor is, what I've heard, is that they're actually going to maintain support until September. So you don't have to worry. I mean, you do a little bit, but not completely. So supposedly, rumor says, and we can confirm this with Paul, and I suggest you, when you have Stump the Speaker, raise your hand and ask, how long is it going to be supported for? Now, what does that mean to be supported for? What it means is if they find any security breaches or something like that in the core, that they'll put out a new version of it. Right now, I just got word, I think it's 1.5.26, I think is what's most current right now. I think like last week, something was just put out there. And I do recommend, go to Joomla.org and you can add yourself to the email list for the security thing so that way you get an email when a new release has come out. There are no new features created for 1.5, which you may be fine with. It's been working fine, no problem. This is an important piece though. Third-party developers will cease making tools for things that work with this version. So for example, Akiba Backup, okay, which is a great backup tool. They've actually put a note on their website saying that as of April 2012, and he may extend that too, we're no longer going to support 1.5, which means when he comes out with fixes for Akiba Backup, he's only going to come out with fixes for the new version of Akiba Backup, which will only work on 2.5. Now, is that happening tomorrow? No, I don't think so. But you want to keep that in mind. So any third-party components that you have, you want to be going onto their forums and their websites to find out how long are you supporting 1.5 to make your determination, okay, when do I need to kind of start jumping ship? Okay, 1.6, anyone on 1.6, 1.7? A couple. Okay, so they mentioned it earlier today about Joomla 1.6 coming out in January. And they also mentioned, I thought it was really interesting when they said the decrease of downloads, the decrease of support and all this in the past 2011. And I completely agree as to why it happened is because of their change in their releasing strategy. Does it mean they shouldn't have done it? Should they have called 1.6.2.0? No, I don't think they were ready. I think it's okay. So there was a hiccup here. And one of my proofs for it was my training classes. In 2010, my classes had 16 to 17 people per class. In 2011, my September class had 3. It's right there, you know, that, and then I taught in January, I had 13 again. I just taught like a couple weeks ago, maybe it was March, whatever. I had 13 people. So it's all about the numbers. It's all about marketing and perception. Everyone was afraid of 1.6. So what happened was 1.6 was a major jump for Joomla in a lot of different ways. The way they handled ACL, the way categories were arranged, everything. Huge, huge jump between 1.5 and 1.6. So a lot of people thought, well, why don't you call it 2.0? Here's the thing, although it was a huge jump, a lot of the third-party component developers weren't necessarily ready for that jump yet. You know, because they were, you know, running on 1.5 and everything was working honky-dory, and even the developers that maybe created something for 1.0, they were able to make it for 1.5, everything's happy. But once they went to 1.6, the developers with code that maybe wasn't so great, it's not going to just work in 1.6. They really had to go back to the bottom and recode a lot of how their logic even worked. So it was a major, major undertaking. So I'm kind of happy they did call it just 1.6, that my clients weren't pushing me to move to it because I don't think the world was ready. When I was at this conference last year, on April 1st, a question was raised to all the speakers, how many of you were going to 1.6? And not one person raised their hand. So if the speakers, if we weren't ready, who's going to be ready to go? Now, with that being said, let's just go over here. Released in 2011, it's safe. It's no longer being supported. And you'd be like, whoa, wait a minute, it just came out. That's because 2.5 is based on 1.6 and 1.7. 2.5 is like kind of a little hop from 1.6 and 1.7. So you're on 1.7, you can move to 2.5 with relatively little parting. Now I said little, there could be some, but it's not that major of a step up. I mean, things could break, of course, but.
So why isn't it 1.8 or 1.9, and where the hell is 2.0? Why did they go to 2.5?
Here was their strategy, and Mark Dexter did put something out online to really go over that. 1.5 was a long-term release, okay, meaning it was going to be supported for 18 months. So I guess they decided 2.5 is going to be the next long-term release. When they come out,
2.0?
not my decision, I'm just the messenger. I hear you, I don't know. So basically, if they're going to continue with this mindset, okay, so 2.5 is the long term, all right, when 3.0 comes out in the summer, that's going to be only for people that really want to move up. 3.5 is going to be the next long-term release, which will probably come out next year, but they'll continue supporting 2.5. So basically, they don't want to support more than 2 releases at a time, which makes sense. The numbering, I'm just the messenger, trying to figure it out, as all of us were.
Okay.
But it's important to understand that the jump between 1.7 and 2.5 is a very little jump, and I think that's the biggest misleading point, because people thought that, oh, well, 1.5 to 1.6, that's not a big deal. And so how can you convince your clients to move to 1.6 and pay you $1,000 to upgrade? And they're like, why would I pay you to go from 1.5 to 1.6? My goodness, it's huge, you know? So anyway, what are the changes overall? Complete ACL security. This, has anyone used Juga, J-U-G-A? Probably not, because that was a 1.5 tool. One of the big things that was missing in Joomla 1.5 was the security layer, meaning that I can assign Jane to only work on items in a specific category. Did not exist in Joomla. So if you wanted all the science teachers to only be able to edit documents in the science category, you couldn't do it. You would have to install a third-party tool. One of them was Juga that Raphael created, and he's in New York now. And you would have to install that to be able to do that type of group structure. So a major push for 1.6 was to make that happen. And that's through what they call the ACL, and it's through permissions and access levels. And that is a whole other class within itself. You could take hours and hours to learn all the layers. But my point to you is that it's there. That also changed the way a lot of the components had to speak with the Joomla core, because in the components had to follow the same ACL security rules with these groupings that the core does. So that's a huge jump for the component developers to have to figure out how do I kind of fit in that niche. In 1.5, you have editor, author, publisher, manager, and administrator, super administrator. That's it. In 1.6, 1.7, and 2.5, you can also create your own groups. I mean, it goes really, really deep in there. So you can create a group that does this, this, and this, but doesn't do that. You can have inherited rights. So if you're in this group and your group is linked to that group and nested, so they basically added a huge, huge piece to the puzzle, which was a great addition. Multi-nested categories. I was excited about this one. So in 1.5, and a couple of you are in 1.5, you have a section and then a category and then your articles. But you can't have a section, a category, and another category. You can't double nest. You can only go one layer deep. Which, you know what, you can get away with. So what I typically would do in my sites, I would create a section called General, and then within that, I would create all my categories. I typically didn't have multiple sections because it just got too confusing for my clients. My first sites that I built, I did because I'm a database person. So in my head, I go, oh, for the kindergarten, they're going to have a section, and then within that, they're going to have a category for their this and a category for that, and that was my first site. No, it wasn't necessary to break it down to that little minute level. But so now, in 1.6, 1.7, and 2.5, we have multi-nested categories. So what that means is I can have the science department, then within that I can have teacher area, within that I can have whatever area, so I can nest these categories as much as I want. What would you need the multiple nesting for? Possibly for security, okay, because you can drill down. Also, there are modules, which we'll talk about a little bit later, that you can display articles from specific categories. So if you multi-nest them, let's say I create a category called movies, all right? Then within movies, I have action and adventure. Within action and adventure, I have a kid version and an adult version, okay? So I can decide, I can display just my action adventure, and it will display all of the things within, or I can display a list of just the family action adventure and display all those within. So if you can organize your content properly, you can have a really dynamic site. So it's just things you want to think about. One thing it doesn't have that's very frustrating for me is an article can only exist in one category as of now. I'm praying that will change. Now there are ways you can kind of get around it. kind of using related articles, which you can do in the keywords. It's not true tagging, although I think 3.0 they're talking about putting in true tagging, which means you can really have things link, in a whole mishmash of ways. But right now, each article can only exist in one category. But if you organize the categories correctly, you can kind of get around that if need be, okay? So I would keep a lookout for that on 3.0 or possibly 3.5. I'm not sure when they're going to address that. Template styles. In 1.5, you had templates, so you would install a template onto your site. Done. If you wanted your template to be blue on one page, but then on another page you want your template to be white, you would have to create another template. A template in Joomla includes 30 different files, CSS files, XML files, PHP files, it includes a lot of stuff. So when I'm saying you'd have to create another template, you literally have to copy all those files, create another one, and then make like 2 different versions of it, which means, as we know in code, we don't want to have 2 different versions of something doing essentially the same thing. Now, in 1.6, what they did was they created something called template styles. So what this means is I can have an instance of my template. So let's say when I install my template, that template is capable of being blue or red, and there's like a little drop down where I can select blue or red. I can create a style, and that style will implement my template in red, and then I could duplicate it, create another style, and then select blue. So that's handled in template styles, but I'm not installing another version of the template. That does mean your template has to have the intelligence, though, to have blue or red in a nice little drop down. That does need to be there. Yeah?
In those style changes, can you change the header image?
The header image is a really good question. Can you change the header image? In my hope is that most websites, the header image should be managed at a module level only, not at the template level. Meaning, for me, I would like my template to have a holder place for my header image. It could be called header or logo. And then I'm not relying on the template to change that image. So I would rather do that at the module level, where I can say, when I'm on certain pages, I want to use this logo. On other pages, I want to use another logo. Now, that's not always the case. It depends on the template. If your template, like even the Bees 20 template, comes with a specific header image. So that is stored at the template level. So then, yes, in theory. Does that answer your question?
Sort of.
I would typically, again, it really depends on the template. Like, U-theme templates are really flexible. That's YOOTHEME. So with theirs, you don't really need another style to just put another logo image in there because it's handled by the module. But what you would use a different style of is, let's say I want all the CSS, I want all the red properties to come up. So I want all the links to look red. That's where I would use it as a different style. Does that help a little bit, or? Well, it depends on the template. It really does. Like, if the template hard-coded the header image, then if you use a different style, as long as the styles in the template allow you to change what the header image is. So it again goes back to my template code. Yeah?
I was just wondering about, couldn't you do a lot of that in CSS? Or is that why they created new templates, so you do less in the CSS?
You're still going to have the intelligence in CSS. So the question was, is that to do a lot of stuff in CSS or not use CSS? Your template needs to have the intelligence to make the decision of what colors am I going to use. Depending on those colors, the CSS styles will need to be defined. And if I'm using red, these are my styles. If I'm using blue, these are my styles. So you're still using the CSS just as much, but the template has a little bit more, I guess we could say, intelligence to it. So it will decide which one to use. I think that's a better way to say it. Your CSS file may end up being bigger, or you'll have more of them, and your template will decide which CSS file it's going to use based on the template style that you pick. So I don't know if it really relieves that code, but it does relieve having to create all of like index PHP and all that, copy them over again. Because in the old school, I would have 2 different templates. But then I may not have, like if one template was red in the old school, when I didn't have styles, I would have one template that had a red CSS file and another template that had a blue CSS file. So now I'm going to have one CSS file with both of them still merged together. I still have to define what those things are. Does that help a little bit? So again, I'm going back to what the template code is. Okay, in 2.5, that's what's currently out right now. Does anyone have a 2.5 website? Okay, so 2.5 came out in January. It's at 2.5.3. It's a 2.5.4. Something just came out. I think that was 1.5.2.6. So I think we're on 2.5.3 right now. If you're on 2.5, anything below 2.5.3, upgrade. Click the button. There's a little button now in 2.5, which you didn't have in 1.7. It says upgrade now, upgrade. But just keep in mind, always keep backups, because you never know. But yeah, you want to upgrade because these types of, especially now, in 2.5, because remember 2.5 just came out in January, it's a pretty big release. So any changes that they come up with are probably pretty major, so I would follow suit with that and, and not wait around. It's long-term, so it's supposed to be supported for 18 months, which means it's really a good idea to get in the conversation with your clients now of moving from their 1.5 sites to the 2.5 sites. Now, part of you may be thinking, well, wait a minute, 3.0 is coming out in the summer, should I just wait for 3.0? Not necessarily. They're kind of waiting. 3.0 is going to be more like a developer type release. So if you're building a site from scratch, maybe in September of 2012, would I go to 3.0 at that point? Probably. I got to see what the versions are. But sites that I'm migrating, I would probably just migrate them to 2.5. Once you get to 2.5, the hope is that the upgrade process between 2.5 and 3.0 won't be as drastic as 1.5 to 2.5, because I don't know if the changes are as major as you could hear, the changes between 1.5 and 1.6, huge jump. So I don't think that the changes up to 3.0 are going to be that major. Going to 3.5, again, I don't know. I'm curious to hear about it. So, yeah.
I'm just curious, what do you do with your clients? Did you upgrade from 1.5 to 1.6? How many versions did you, you say your average. Did you go from 1.5 to now you're going to 2.5?
I'm having the budget right now. I have any clients that I started last fall, the ones that I was starting, I actually held them up and said, let's wait till 2.5 comes out and we're going to start in 2012 because I didn't want to start in 1.6. My clients that were in 1.5 last year, I had just a couple of them wanted to move to 1.7, so I did move them and I did the upgrade process and I moved them up. The ones that are in 1.5, the bigger sites like the library systems and stuff like that, I have not moved them yet. We're going to do a 2.5 plan. So what I've done is I've given them proposals and I said, this is what it's going to be. We're going to have to redo. Because think about it. If they were in 1.5, that means their site's probably been up for 2 to 3 years. It's a good time to do some house cleaning. So I put a proposal together saying, okay, this is a good time to redo your menu structure. You may want to pick a different template. You don't have to. But it's, if you're going to do it, you might as well look pretty in the process. So for me to do a 1.5 to 2.5 upgrade as a consultant, I would think it's 10 to 15 hours worth of work. Is it 100 hours? No. It depends how complex their site is. So I am in the process of doing that now and telling my clients to make a budget, make a plan, so when we're absolutely ready, we will move. But I've told them all that we're going to hit a wall by May. I'm not going to be able to really do anything on your 1.5 site anymore. If you want a new photo gallery, I'm not going to be able to do that for you. So I'm prepping them now so that way the planning stages can happen. So when we really have to move, they're not hearing it from me for the first time. What do you mean I have to move? You just moved me from 1.7, that type of thing. Yeah.
The thing that really hit home in a local user group meeting recently was that as Joomla moves forward through its releases, and you have a site, and you may use some extensions, they may or may not be moving forward. So the reality is, you have to watch more than just the Joomla progress.
Absolutely.
You may have chosen a module that isn't moving forward.
Nope.
And you've got a bigger problem than you 5.
Huge.
Yeah, so that was the big gotcha. that I-
Huge, and this is what, and by going to user groups, you learn
Yes.
about this stuff, because if I present at the user group, or if I'm talking at my user group, one of the things now, okay, so 1.6 was a really major jump. Whenever I'm installing any tool, even last year, even if I wasn't in 1.7 or whatever, I would only install tools that I knew worked in 1.6 or 1.7. Because if the developers have made the decision to get on board at the early stages, it means they're going to be on board for 2.5. So, and chances are most tools that work in 1.6 or 1.7 will probably also work for 2.5. Now, a tool like DocMan, does anyone here use DocMan? So DocMan didn't come out with their 1.7 version until September of 2011. So I had a client that insisted on moving in May of 2011. They used DocMan. I couldn't use it, so I used Foca Downloads instead. Wasn't really as happy with it as I am with DocMan. And then in September, DocMan came out, so I called the client and said, guess what, we can leave Foca. You know, now I also know a lot of people that don't like DocMan, which is fine. So yeah, as far as when you're picking, like right now, if you're still working on a 1.5 site, you're not ready to move yet, it's fine. But any tool you install, you want to check to see if it'll work for 1.6, because then when you do move, it will be an easier move. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So what if you have a critical extension for 1.5 that you like that is no longer going to be supported, period?
As your client or as the developer, you've got to find something that will. They can stay on 1.5.
Well, that's the question.
Sure.
How long can you, I mean, what is
I still
it?
have a client on 1.0. It's 3 years ago.
Okay.
You know, so can they stay on 1.5? Yes, but here's what's going to happen. The only reason why you're going to hit a wall is when the 1.5 person says, I want a new forum tool. You won't be able to find it for them. You're going to hit a wall as far as development goes. As far as, is their site going to get hacked if they're in 1.5? As long as you've always kept up with the 1.5 releases and you're at 1.5.26, chances are you'll be okay. But one of the things that people say is some of your third-party tools could be compromised if the third-party tool isn't kept up to date. So you really want to try to, like I have a lot of clients using SOBI 2. SOBI 2 does not work in 2.5. So I have the same exact problem. So this year, my goal was to find something that I really liked, and I happened to find Mozet's Tree, and I'm okay with that. I used that many years ago, and now I'm back to it. And slowly, I'm going to start migrating people using Mozet's Tree. 2.5, as you know, just came out. So if you keep looking in the extension directory, you may just find the tool. Even if you think it doesn't exist, you may find it. I mean, more and more they keep coming up. Like DocMan, it came out in September. So last May it wasn't there, but then it came out. So things keep changing. And then you have to decide and rethink, okay, why is this so important to us? Do I need to, you know, think about, okay, is there another way we can handle this in maybe another way? And that's by going to user groups, because at the user groups we always talk about, oh, I need this tool, I love this tool, or whatever. And that's one of the reasons to go to some kind of user group for that support. And maybe someone will have an idea for you that will work. 2.5, it's the same stuff from 1.6 and 1.7. They have a menu item parameter of no, this isn't that big of a deal. This we love. There's an update notification on the quick icons module. So unlike 1.7, you had to go to like manage and update and find updates and click on all these buttons. They now put it right on the front. It says, you need to update Joomla, you click on it, it updates it. Now, if you're in 1.7 and you do the update, is it going to work perfectly? I've run into a couple of hiccups. So with 1.7, you may want to, I've done the update through FTP, where I've taken the 2.5 files, and there's like an upgrade. It's like from 1.7.0 to 2.5, and I think with 1.6 you can do the same thing, that same upgrade. And I'll unzip it on my computer, and then using FTP, I literally transfer all the files over, just to make sure I did what I needed to do. I always want to create backups, and I'm going to just keep saying it, just backup, 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 backup.
I got it back up, yeah, but I still can't log in the back end.
Great, okay.
I'll get it figured out today.
We'll figure it out.
Thank you for your help.
Backup, backup, backup. Now, there are different ways that you can back up your site. There's something called a Kiva backup. which will basically create an entire zip of your site, and then you could take that and install it someplace else. The only problem with that is it's manual. Akiba had like an automatic backup thing that worked in 1.5. It doesn't work anymore. What? A-K-E-E-B-A, Akiba. And Nicholas, who created Akiba, actually had his hands in on how to do the update Joomla. He has been working with the Joomla team, and that was one of the things that Paul was talking about, is different third-party people are actually helping and volunteering their time to give the code that they did over to the core, which is awesome, really cool. So Akiba backup. The other piece is your host. Who's hosting your site? You know, Rockin keeps, or Rockin, they keep backups like every few minutes for 30 days, and they keep that up there for you. Keep that in mind, and it may cost a little bit more, but you know what? When your site crashes, as Bruce did, it's really nice to know you have a backup. It's really good. Now, I have a lot of my sites on HostGator, which is really inexpensive. It works, and it's fine, and they do keep backups weekly. Like they keep daily backups that they keep for a week or something like that. But I ran into an interesting problem. It was in September, but I also do Akiba backups. So like once a month or once every 3 weeks, I run an Akiba backup, and I make sure I have like a full backup of the site if needed. So we ran into a problem where somehow the site got hosed, and something with DT register. So I have to talk to Nathan about that, DTH developments here. Something weird happened in September. And the client called me, and it was a synagogue, Laura, the whole site is messed up, whatever. So I said, okay. I call HostGator. Now, this was a Thursday, all right? Now, I found out like Wednesday night. Thursday, I call HostGator at like 10 o'clock. And I said, can I restore to last week's backup? This was ridiculous. No, because we're currently making a new backup of your site right now as we speak, and we don't have the old version. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. How much is that suck? So, HostGator's cheap. You get what you pay for, okay? So I was a little bamboozled. I'm like, wait, what do you mean? You're making a backup of my host site. That's not going to help me, you know? And you don't keep it. So when you're looking for sites, and were we able to get the site back up? Yes, because I had to keep it back up. I kind of installed it someplace else. I took the tables. I knew how to grab those and moved it over. And, you know, so I was able to get the site back up and running, and it was fine. But you know what? If you don't want to have to deal with that little mini heart attack that I had, and it's my synagogue too, so I'm like, you know, feel a little responsible. Find a host and ask them about their backup procedures, and ask how easy is it to restore a backup. Personally, I don't host any of my client sites anymore. I think I host like 2 of them because I felt as a developer, I wanted to get out of that business. Let them pay for their hosting. I'll give them the pros and cons. You can pay $20 a month, this is what you're going to get. You can pay $5 a month, this is what you're going to get, and I let them decide. If they pick the cheap one, then they have to pay me more hours if I have to reboot it. Not because I want to, but because that was their choice. It's fine, you know. Again, everyone has, you know, a lot of people in our user group say, oh, shared hosting's so bad, you can't do it. But you know what, when you have a little mom and pop shop, they can't pay more than $5 a month. So it's fine, but I tell them, run and keep a backup, please. Run it. Click on that button so at least I have something that I can work with should we run into a problem. So there are ways you can get around that. But anyway, keep that in mind. Like, you know, something like Rockin, they keep those backups, and it's a click of a button, you can restore your site. So, you know, that's really important.
And they're only $8.95 a month.
$8.95.
Yeah.
So there you go. So it's not that much more money.
It's not that bad.
And there's rack space too. This is an interesting option. Oh my goodness. Okay, you can set your site to offline during the installation, which is very cool. A new thing. There's a true auto loader. I'm going to kind of database version check to make sure you're using the right version of the database. This is a new thing. I haven't really used this that much, but you can add an image or a URL field to your article if you want, but then you have to really manage the CSS to make that display properly. So if you don't know that stuff, it might not make sense to you. Capture in the core. Very excited about this piece. For those who, has anyone used Community Builder or something for their login? You know, when you have registration on your site, does anyone have registration on your site? Like a login page. When you click register, is there captcha there? No. So you get, CAPTCHA helps to prevent spam, so you don't get computers logging into your site. Does anyone get junk users registering for their site? So in order to fix that in 1.5, I've always installed a plugin that puts in the CAPTCHA so that way to help to kind of defray those extra users coming in. But it's now in the core. Really nice piece, really. Is that a reason to move to 2.5? No, but it's, you know, it's a nice thing to have. Finder integration, what they've done is instead of, in addition to the regular search plugins they have this thing called Smart Search, where it indexes all of your files and it works really great. So it makes the searching a little bit quicker and it stores more statistics for you too. The upgrade, we kind of talked about, you want to make sure components, modules, all plugins, all templates, that everything's compatible for the new version. How complex? 1.5 to 2.5, as I mentioned, you got to install 2.5. You got to install this stuff from scratch. Now, there is going to be a workshop of the upgrade, and there are 2 tools out there, SP Upgrade, J Upgrade, which can take your whole site and then put it over to another host. But one thing Jeremy's going to mention to you is even if you do all that, he can't guarantee, J Upgrade can't guarantee, or SP Upgrade can't guarantee that the third-party tool is going to upgrade properly. So you really want to find out from whatever the third-party tool is, it could be JEvents or whatever it happens to be, go onto their website and find out what do I need to do in order to upgrade from 1.5 to 2.5. And you got to do the legwork to figure that out. It's a pretty big step. The other option is the content can be migrated. I found a tool that I know Jeremy is going to mention, J2XML. What you can do is you install that on your 1.5 site. You can export your content to an XML file. You build your 2.5 site with nothing in it, and then you can import all of your content onto your 2.5 site. Does not include menus, and I know that could be part of the headache, but it's all of your categories, all of your content can be brought in to the new site. So I used it, I tried it out, and it worked pretty well. So it was a good step. Okay, 1.6 to 1.7, as I mentioned, this is pretty much, it's pretty simple. If you're concerned about doing it, you were to hire like a consultant to do it, maybe 2 hours of work, maybe 1 hour. It could only take 15 minutes. You know, so I'm giving you these hours because I think it's important to know when you do choose to hire a consultant, if they say it's going to be 20 hours to do this, they're pulling your leg. It's not that big of a deal, unless you have tools that don't work or something like that. Okay, what are the moving parts? Questions so far? Remember, I'm used to doing this class in 8 hours, so it's a little hard to put it all in. Okay, there are articles, there are menus. One of the hardest things for me when I first learned Joomla is that they're separate. Just because you have an article doesn't mean you have a menu item. Just because you have a menu item doesn't mean you have an article. And that like just blew my mind. I'm like, what do you mean you can have a menu going to a page? It's not really a page. Like, it just. So once you can get that in your head and just like kind of frame it that, okay, they're separate parts, you will have a better site because you realize, okay, a menu item can link to anything. It can link to an external site. It could be a wrapper, which is like a little iframe. It can link to an article. It can link to a lot of articles. It can link to JEvents, a calendar. So just get in your head that they're separate pieces. The components are what you use to manage big stuff. JEvents is a component. com_content is the article component in Joomla. That's with core Joomla, just for example. The modules are mini programs that you display in different positions on your website. So I mentioned like a logo, you know, you can just use a custom HTML module to throw an image up there, or a slideshow module, or things like that. So if you get all the different parts, the things, for me, it helped once I learned that stuff. Plugins. These are mini programs that can actually stop your site dead in the water. If you have one plugin enabled, which I've done many times, the whole site will go blank. So when you install plugins, they're little, but they're very powerful. So don't go plugin happy and install 10 at the same time, because you'll never know which one screwed up your site. An example, a plugin could be an editor. A plugin could display tabs on your website. A plugin could display a list of articles inside of your article. A plugin can display, so they're like these little mini pieces of code, but once they're enabled, they're actually active. So what that means is if for some reason maybe that doesn't play nicely with your template, if you enable that plugin, everything can go white. So my suggestion, whenever you install a plugin and you enable it, just do it one at a time and test it after you do it. Just to make sure. I've done it many times. And then templates, that's your actual design. So content is an actual article. Does everyone know what content is, an article is? Yes? Okay. So that's just an article on a website. You can nest the categories, which I already talked about, so you can have multiple categories going down to the articles. The menus are what's going either across or maybe down. These are just links to other pages within your website. The components, I gave an example, content, banners, web links, contacts. These are all components that come with core Joomla, out of the box. You don't always have to install new everything. It's already there. Third-party components, JEvents, RS Forms, there are different directory tools. Contact Enhanced is a commercial component you can use for Contact Manager. JCE Editor. Mass Content is a way you can quickly bring content in. Mass Content, if you want to build a site, by the way, is a great tool. And for 2.5, they just added, like I think last week, the capability of adding mass content into categories. So it's called Mass Content, and it's free. So like if you're building a site from scratch and you want to just quickly create all your content, you can do it all in one page. So it's really nice tool. Modules, you got the menu module, which displays your menus, a login module, custom HTML. You can put anything you want in there, display it on your page. Random image, has anyone used random image? Did it work? Were you able to get it to work?
Not well, no, this is a couple years ago.
Great basic tool. It comes with Joomla. All it does is it shows a different image. Every time you refresh your page, it just grabs an image from the folder and shows it. But you have to make sure you code the folder correctly. That's usually what I mess up on, where if I put the folder in wrong. And every time I refresh the page, a different image shows up. Very simple, but it changes your site so everyone, they have kind of a different view of the website. And it doesn't have any moving parts. Sometimes everyone wants, oh, I want these slideshows, I want this. So it's just too much movement on the page. So this random image is core. Newsflash, does anyone use Newsflash? Okay. Newsflash, and what about latest news? Does anyone use latest news? Okay. Let's say Newsflash. Okay, I'm okay. In Newsflash, you can select an article from a category. Has anyone seen on a website a did you know? And there's like a paragraph of did you know? And maybe then there's a read more. And every time I refresh the page, I want to see a different did you know article. This is core Joomla. Newsflash. You put the Newsflash module on the page. You select what category. You can create a category called Did You Know? Put 20 articles in that category. In the Newsflash module, you basically say, display one article from the category. They'll ask what sequence. Random. Every time you refresh the page, it'll show a different article. It's a beautiful way to display dynamic content on your site without doing anything. It's really great. So I use Newsflash on almost all of my sites. The other one is latest news, another way to make your content more dynamic. Latest news, basically, you display a list of articles. So it's like just, a list of articles from a specific category. So let's say I have a movie website, and on the left-hand side, I want to just show my latest movies in, a specific category of adventure movies. When I add a new adventure article, it will automatically add that into the list. So again, this is a way of giving your clients ways, they know how to add an article. If you taught them that, they can add an article, and now it's automatically showing up on their page. They don't have to create a menu item, they don't have to do anything. It'll automatically show up on the list. Okay. Not custom modules, but third-party modules. There's slideshows, different types of slideshows, forms, latest events. There's one here, my favorite. Write this down. It's called Ada News. Do you want me to just show you an example of it? I got 10 minutes. Should I show you? It's exciting. Okay. Ada News basically puts together, and I'm going to go to this one here. Assuming we didn't change the page here. Ada News combines newsflash with latest news. So you can choose to display the intro text from a specific article or not. It's up to you. What's also in Ada News, you can change the sequencing to like crazy different things. You can also make the first image in the article into a button. So one of the things doesn't come with core Joomla. If you do a category blog view, yeah, you're seeing it, but people want to click on that picture, right? They're like, how come I can't click on the picture? I have to click read more. So with Ada News, you can say, I want the first image in the article to be clickable and to be an image. And you can change the size of it. So when it's displayed, it can be displayed in a little button. So here's an example. I think I did it. Where did I do it? In the cast. This was from Joomla Day of 2011. Let's see. It's loading. Okay. So what I did was I have an article for every one of our presenters. There was like a bio about them, and I put a picture in there about them. So on the cast page, what I wanted to do was to display kind of like a playbill effect of each of the people. I don't want to have to create a table and do all that stuff. You don't have to. So Ada News, I said, I wanted it to be displayed in 3 columns. I want all the articles from our cast category. I want you to take the first image and display it in this size. If there's no image, use this one. So then when I click on the different images, they're buttons, which I didn't have to code that, which I coded that. And then I can go to Alex and I get his bio page. So Ada News is basically combining those two things together. So latest news is just the article title. That's it. It's just the title of the article. Newsflash is the article title and like the read more, just the information. Ada News, I can do both. So Ada News, I could display a paragraph if I want, the first image shown, you know, or whatever, and it's free. And it works in 2.5, by the way. So it, you know,
1.5 also.
Yes. Yeah. Now the question is, I think he's still supporting the 1.5 version. That's going to start to stop because he's like this one guy in Italy that's kind of building this amazing tool. So, but yeah, I started using this in 1.5. This is a 1.5 site because when we did this last year. So. Really cool. What?
No, I did.
Aida? Wait, what? What did you just say?
Isn't that name Aida?
What, Ada News? Oh, it should be Aida?
Isn't it?
I have no idea. I've been calling it Ada News forever, and I have no Italian background. So yeah, maybe it is Aida. I'll have to change all my presentations. It's just really powerful. So to me, those 3 tools together makes your site really dynamic. So if you take anything from this session today, latest news, you want to just show a list of articles on your site. Another example here, my client, she wants a local chat box. She wanted to create a blog. She called me the other day, I want a blog. Now, I wanted to put a blog on her site when she first started last year, but she wasn't ready to actually add things. Because what I tell my clients, it's nice to have a blog, but it's only worthwhile if you're going to add to it at least once a month. If you're doing it once a year, nobody gives a hoot what you had to say last year. So we can put it up there and about us, but it's not a blog. It needs to stay current. So she was finally ready. She called me. So did I have to install blogging software? No. I created a category called Our Blog. I taught her how to add articles to that category. That is it. I use latest news, and I display her most recent items. Done. That took me a whole 15 minutes to do, maybe a half-hour phone conversation with her to teach her how to add articles, and that was it. So now, this will always get updated. As soon as she adds a new entry, it will get updated here. This is not a menu, it's just latest news. That's it. Now, I might have actually, I think this is actually using Ada News, because Ada News, another thing with Ada News, is that you can control the CSS in the module itself. So you could say, I want a line underneath each thing. And I think as I'm looking at it, she didn't like the way the latest news laid out. She's like, oh, I want a bullet, or I want... So in Ada News, you can actually customize what the CSS is in that exact module. So it gave me a little bit more control. So I think for this, I used the Ada News piece. But if you have a client, go with the latest news first. Don't overstep. There's no reason to. Just stick with this. And it works great. So that's a really good way to make your content more dynamic for you. Questions about latest news, news flashes? I ate those.
And you could have positioned that Ada News to be in the center too, right? I mean, it's a module, right?
Yeah, it's a module. So, to display, okay, you ready? Has anyone used load position? I'm giving away all my secrets. No one's going to actually be able to take my class. Okay, load position. Okay, here's the secret. You can put things in different module positions. And one thing, real quick, when you're selecting a template, probably the most important piece of selecting the right template is looking at what positions they offer you. The positions and the menus. And you know what, I'm going to go to that thought in a minute. I'm going to hold on. Plugins, low position, I'll talk about that in a minute. Editors, system tools, third party like Ignite Gallery, which is a great photo gallery, by the way. Ignite Gallery is really powerful. It's I think it's $35 or something like that, but it works for 1.5 and for 2.5. Social media links, let's say you want like buttons to appear, like buttons and stuff, that could be a plugin. Advanced search. The templates, you can use the templates that already come with the core. You can purchase from clubs. They're also free templates. When you're deciding what template to use, look at the way the menu works. Do you like it? If you don't like it, pick a different one because it's a pain in the neck to modify the menu. You can change the colors or, you know, if it's all uppercase or lowercase. But if you don't like the way the menu flows or where it's sitting on the screen, find another template. Like if my client has a logo that's really long and they pick a template where the menu is displayed next to the logo, that's not going to work. If they have a square logo and the menu displays to the right of it, that's fine. You know, so stupid things like that could change what template you pick. The other thing is, where are the modules? Do they have a lot of flexibility with the module placement? Uthene has, you know, an ungodly, different amount of positions and things. There are plenty of free templates that also have a lot of different positions that you can put things in. And the flexibility of it. Some template software comes with different styles, so you can easily change, I want this module to display in blue. I don't have to go to the template code, I could just type in blue in the class, and then it displays in blue very nicely. You know, so there are different ways that you can do that in the template. So when you're looking for them, those are the things you want to look for. Things to look, when you're finding a third-party tool, read the reviews, go to the reviews, Do they have a support forum? If they don't, make sure that if you email them, that they get back to you before you spend money on the product. You know, don't just start complaining about everything, but just check, like Ignite Gallery, I don't think he has a forum up yet, or maybe he just created one, but their customer support is fabulous, so I've been fine with that. They all have different ways of doing it. What's their cost model? Some you have to buy the product, others you're not buying the product per se, you get the product, but you're paying for the support. So basically that's why you need to pay $35 each year so you can get the newest version in that next year. Do you have to pay every single year? No, if you're fine with the version you have, that's fine, but you just want to keep that in mind. That's a difficult thing when you're working with clients, because the clients will be like, oh, I want the newest version, and I tell them I would prefer my clients to have their own support contracts with the developers instead of just with me, because although, yeah, maybe I'll purchase it and then I can install it on a bunch of people's sites, technically I shouldn't be asking questions for that developer for 20 different sites. That's not what you're paying for the support for. You're paying technically for one site. Could you install it on 20 sites? Sure. They're not going to go after you. But that's just something to think about. And have they updated their product recently? So if you're looking for a download, the last time they did anything with it was in 2010, I'd probably stay far away from it. Okay, now, load position. It's 11:15. Okay. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask, is anyone interested in load position? Not at all. Maybe. Okay. Let me just tell you what it is, and I can ask Jen if I could do any kind of workshop either during lunch. I don't mind doing it. It's like 20 minutes. What low position allows you to do is to display any module inside of your content article. So let's say you have a board minutes page, and you have different articles about the board minutes, but you have like a main page that says, we have created board minutes, blah, 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 blah. And then inside the article, you want to list those last entries, but you don't want to have to create, what?
So it's a module in an article.
Being able to put a module, any module inside of an article. So I think it's a pretty powerful thing. So who would be interested in that? Just raise your hand if anyone. No?
Well,
A couple?
I'm interested, but I'm wondering, is it something that
It's a 2.5.
No, it's from 1.5. It's a long. It would take me about 15 minutes to do. So if anyone's interested, why don't I do this? I'm gonna ask Jen if during lunch.
There she is.
I heard that. I kind of teased about load position.
Oh, okay.
So could I maybe during lunch, if anyone's interested in learning load position, are you doing any speakers during lunch? Or-
No, we're not doing any speakers during lunch. If you guys are available, we'd like to do something.
Okay then. So if anyone, what time is lunch?
Lunch is at 12:30.
At 12:30 to
12:30 to
1:30.
1:30.
Fine. So then at 1 o'clock, if anyone's interested in low position,
Come
be
on
here,
here. All right.
and we'll play. And I'll show you how to do it. So, all right. So you can announce that during lunch if anyone else
I
is
will.
interested.
I will.
Because I kind of did a little teaser.
Because I'm here to cut you off.
I love it. She's done.